Have you guys ever found that one thing that just gets you really excited about getting back into learning your language? Because I have now. I definitely have now. Welcome back, everybody. Today I wanted to share with you something that I'm really excited about, and it's something that I've been trying to find for a while now, and it's something that I hope is going to really help to boost my Japanese learning just that much more. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. So for the longest time, I've been trying to figure out a way to practice my Japanese, to do a better way to get my my daily dose, as it were, of active immersion. Because anime is great. You know, I love watching anime, and it has been really good. It's been really good at helping me get listening practice and things like that. But I'm not really getting any sort of vocabulary practice with it because of the way that I'm doing it. I'm not necessarily getting that. And so I was like, I a long time ago, this was like even before I started this like daily routine, I had decided I needed to try to find something that was going to help me to get that vocabulary that I was missing in any of the active immersion that I was doing at the time. Because when I'm watching anime without subtitles, I mean, obviously there's no subtitles to read, so I don't get any of the vocabulary unless I like hear something that's interesting, or hear something that I recognize surrounding another word that I don't know. Sometimes I can figure that out, but that's still fairly rare at the point that I'm at in my learning. And so it's just one of those things that I wanted another resource to be able to use to gain some more vocabulary. And so I've been searching around and trying to find, I knew that what was going to help was going to be reading. The problem was I needed to find something that was either entirely in hiragana, which was going to be like super, which I do have, and actually I'll show those to you. So I do have two little books that are entirely in hiragana, and those two books are Daruma-san ga, which is super simple. It's like 5 pages long, and there's really nothing to it, but it's kind of fun. I read this to my son every once in a while, just so that he hears a little bit of Japanese. And then the other one I have is Oyatsu Hana Ani. Oyatsu Hana Ani. And this one's a little bit longer, and it has more hiragana on each page. And it's written, like I said, it's written entirely in hiragana because at this point they're both children's books. And at this point in a Japanese child's life, they are not learning kanji yet. They don't know, they know what they recognize what kanji are. They like see them around, like if their parents are taking them, you know, into town, or, you know, maybe their dad's reading the shimbun, the newspaper, or their mom or dad is reading a zashin, or a magazine. But that's going to be the only time that they're going to see kanji. So they will see them, and they know that they should be able to understand them, but they haven't gotten to that point yet. And so they write these completely in hiragana, maybe with a little bit of katakana thrown in sometimes. Now the problem with these is, again, that they're written for toddlers. They're written for children who don't know how to read yet, who are still figuring out how to read and how to speak. And while in a sense of Japanese I am a toddler, I'm still learning how to read and how to speak, and learning how to understand the words. That does not mean that I'm going to learn exactly the same way. As adults, will learn using the same function of reading, and the same function of reading things that are slightly simple, but we're still adults. We still, you know, I'm 28 years old. I still have all of the knowledge accumulated in 28 years of life through school, through just existence. I have all of that knowledge in my head, and through, you know, reading a multitude of books. If you can see our bookshelf, it's, you know, pretty massive. As far as home bookshelves go, they can fit into an apartment. And so I've read a lot. And so things like this, while they're pretty good and could be useful for some people, for me, it's just not super useful. It really isn't. They're fun and they're cute, and I will read them to my son, especially once I get a handle on reading hiragana better and can read it at a faster pace. I'll read them to my son, my sons more, you know, whenever the next one shows up, I'll read that to them more. But I needed something for myself. I needed something just a little more complicated than that. You know, the whole idea of like immersion and things like this, of input, is comprehensible input, which is input that is at your level +1. So at kind of like one step higher than you would than you are able to read or whatever. And for me, I was having trouble finding that. And then everything I found was like, I found Doraemon, which the ones that I found were all bilingual. And I didn't want anything bilingual. I wanted entirely in Japanese, because when you get something bilingual, you tend to use that as a crutch. And I know that I would fall into that if I had that option. If there's the option of English there, I'm going to be looking back and forth, and that's not how you should do it. You shouldn't be learning to translate in your head. You should be learning how to just think in that language, and you do that by getting rid of that bilingualness. You do that by focusing on solely the target language, solely on Japanese. And I just had not been able to find a way to do that. But probably about a week ago, maybe a little more. No, it was a couple weeks ago when I first found it. I found something. I ordered it on January 4th. It didn't come in for quite a while because it was being shipped over from Japan. And then I found the next two in that same series just a couple of days ago, and so I got those two. And so I got these all within just a couple of days of each other. But what I found was this. And this is the first 3 volumes of Yotsuba to. Yotsuba to. Now, there's a reason that I'm really excited about this. One, I've been wanting to get a manga in Japanese and just haven't been able to actually get one and get one shipped over here. Because I had looked at doing Boku no Hero Academia, which is My Hero Academia for you English-speaking people. I looked at... oh goodness, what were the other ones I looked at? It was so long ago that I was looking at these. I think I looked at 7 Deadly Sins at one point that they did print in Japanese. And then I also looked at things like Bleach and stuff like that, which were ones that anime that I enjoyed. And actually for Bleach, I'd read the first like 10, I think, volumes of Bleach. But I just couldn't find one that would actually ship over here, and when I did find one that could actually ship over, it was out of stock, or there was some other issue going on. So I couldn't find anything. But then, beginning of January, I found the first volume of Yotsuba to, and I got extremely excited. And everything that I had read about it, like any sort of review or anything, it always talked about how this manga is really, really good for people who are learning Japanese and who are at a lower level of Japanese. And just from flipping through the pages of it, I can see why. There are literally 0 kanji, and all the pages that I flipped through, there are literally 0 kanji that do not have furigana next to them. But for the most part, because this seems to be intended for a slightly younger audience than many of the modern manga are, at least the ones that you would learn about here in the US. This uses a large amount of hiragana, especially when, and it would make a lot of sense, especially when Yotsuba, which is this little girl here, is talking. When Yotsuba is talking, I don't even know if I've seen any kanji in any of her speech bubbles. And I've only read the first like page and a half, 2 pages of it, because I've had other stuff going on. But just from that beginning little bit, I could already tell when I first got it in that this was going to be extremely useful. I can tell that I'm going to learn a lot from this. I'm going to pick up a lot of vocabulary from this, and it's going to be really, really great for my Japanese learning. And then I think it was the day after this came in. I believe the first one came in on I want to say Wednesday. Yes, it was on Wednesday. And then that night, no, it was that night that I looked up. I decided to look and see if I could get any more of it because I got really excited about it. And that night, actually technically Thursday morning, because it was 2 o'clock in the morning, I was able to find the 2nd and 3rd volumes of it. And these actually only took 1 day to get there. That had 1 day shipping from Amazon because they were not imported from Japan. They were already here somewhere. But you guys, I am just so excited about this. I'm so excited to start reading these and to use these as more active immersion. I'm going to try to pull back on my active immersion using Netflix anime. I'm going to try to pull back on that, and I'm going to do more of this combined with for the like third time now, I have changed the language, the main language on my Nintendo Switch back to Japanese. This is like the third or fourth time that I've done this. But the first couple of times I did it, I didn't have as strong of a base. I didn't have as strong of a passion, or not passion, but desire to stay consistent with any sort of that. And so at the time, I would always just get slightly irritated having to read everything in Japanese and not really knowing what was going on because I wasn't at a good enough level. This was before I was using Native Shark, and so it was before I was learning most of the kanji. It was right at the beginning of using Native Shark. So I knew a couple of kanji from Native Shark, but not enough to be able to actually play those video games like Animal Crossing I was playing in Japanese. And I really could not tell you most of what things said unless they were in hiragana or katakana. Even though they had furigana, but that was only because I didn't know those words. I had no idea what they were, and I had to look up too many of them. So, but I have switched that back. So it is back in Japanese, and so I'm going to try to play some more of my video games in Japanese. The one that I'm really into right now, I don't have the Japanese version, so I can't do that. I have to switch games. But that's what I'm doing. I'm slowing down on the Netflix, mostly again because I seemed to be only using that as listening practice, which is good, and I do still need to do that, you know, but that'll be something like that I will do at work. But when I'm here at home, this or playing my Switch, that will be how I get my active immersion when I'm at home. That's really the only change that I'm going to make. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Like I said, I'm super excited about these. I'm like extremely excited to have these. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys. And if any of you are looking for a good, easy source to be able to practice some Japanese reading, and something that's a little simpler and has a simple story, because it seems to have a pretty simple story as near as I can tell, because I don't actually know what the story is, but it looks like it's fairly simple. This is one that I would recommend. So, Yotsuba to. So, anyways, that is it for me this week. So thank you all for joining me, and I hope that I'll see you guys all again next week. So now let's get out there and immerse.